introduce Doug and Holly White of Weissman Partners. They are really great friends of the Chamber, and when we pitched them this idea, they were integral in helping my colleague Crystal Neal come up with the concept and the programming. And so they will be at every single Chamber we hope. And so they're going to, without further ado, I'll invite them up to introduce tonight's program and speakers.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So, thank you. So we were very fortunate. Okay, I'll take this side over here. How about that? We were very fortunate to be able to ask a couple of our small business colleagues here to come in and help us this evening. We have Scott Dickens with Rocket Pop Media, and he's going to be handling a couple of the platforms tonight, YouTube and Facebook. And then Andrew Roundtree, who is with Addison Clark Online, and they're going to be chatting a little bit about LinkedIn and how you can use that to help to grow your business a little bit.
And then we're going to talk a little bit.
Sure, we are. What we want to do is talk a little bit about really how to use social media more than just to collect friends and followers. I know so many of us have been given the advice over the years that you've got to get into social media.
You got to get into social media. We got that advice, and so we did. We went out and we got on Facebook and we got on Twitter and we got on LinkedIn and we started using it. We didn't have a clue what we were doing.
No,
and we didn't generate any business at all. No. Because the point we want to make tonight is that social media is more than friends and followers. We're going to get into that. But before we jump into that, we want to tie back into what we talked about last month.
Right. So how many people were at last month's event? Do we have anybody? Yeah, a few of you that came last month. So we could have a quiz at this point about the first question. Does anybody remember the first question?
The first question every business must answer.
Why should a prospective customer buy your product or service, right? Rather than somebody else's. That is the first question. And it's a critical question that you need to be able to ask in your business.
And it's one that you need to ask before you go charging off to do social media. You first have to understand what is the argument for someone buying your product. What makes you different than your competition? And it sounds like a simple question, but the fact is it can be excruciatingly difficult to figure it out. But there is some good news.
Yes, there are only two possible answers to this question. It is either going to be some kind of low-cost strategy or a differentiated strategy.
Now, last month we went into details under each of these. We won't do that tonight. But what we will say is that low cost is often difficult for small businesses to maintain. Tough to compete with larger companies that can spread their fixed costs over a larger volume. Most small businesses will find that they need to differentiate their product or service from that offered by their competitors.
Right, they need to find a niche. What is it that you do? What is special about your organization that would appeal to a certain segment of the market, which takes us to
the second question. So
there
once you've answered the first question is necessary, but it is not sufficient. And the second question is there a segment of the market that would value the thing that differentiates your product or service? And is it large enough to support your business?
Right, and that's a very, very important question to answer. But then again, it's not sufficient. Because once you've found your target market that would appreciate what differentiates you, and you've determined that it's large enough to support you in your business venture, you've got a third question.
And the third question you've got to answer is, how are we going to get to those folks? How do I reach my target market? And it could be one of two ways. Either you can reach out and touch them and deliver your message, or you may be in a position where the best way is to let them find you, make yourself easy to find. And this is where social media comes in. How are you going to be able to reach out and touch someone or make yourself easy to find? And social media may or may not be the right thing for your customer base. So for example, if your customer base is septuagenarians, I'm going to suggest that launching a Twitter campaign is probably not going to get you a lot of business.
No, it's not. But if you are appealing to the 20-somethings and you can recognize where they are even in the Twitter sphere, then you can maybe go out and touch that target market through Twitter. But you don't want to just charge off doing social media without having thought through the marketing.
We think you've got to answer these three questions, which is what we call Marketing 101. before you charge off on a social media campaign. But if you've answered these questions, and if you've said, you know what, my customer base really is available to me on social media, there are ways we can get to them, then the things that we're going to talk about this evening may be right in your wheelhouse.
Right, so at this point, what we want to be able to do is to turn it over to some of the experts in the industry. And I've got to tell you, the folks that are here tonight know so much more about social media than Douglas and I do, I would say.
Well, and then they're going to have a chance to talk about tonight, because we're trying to cover 5 platforms. We're going to give each platform about 10 minutes, which should be enough to give you a good flavor of what's there, but certainly not enough to give you all the detail.
But that's where the networking comes in afterwards. So don't run off. As soon as we're done here, you can have the ear of Andrew or his partner Jeff. Wave your hand, Jeff. There we go. Jeff's sitting here. And talk to them about what they did. You can talk to Scott, and he brought somebody too. We have Kara here, his partner. So you have Scott and Kara that you can chat with afterwards. You can actually talk to some of the experts in this field. And of course, Doug and I will hang
If you're
around
really
too.
hard up, you could talk to Polly.
Yes, yeah. We'll hang out too. But without anything else, let me turn over the remote to our next speaker.
Thanks. Paul.
There we go. Yes.
Look how he's moving around. All right, so again, I'm Andrew Roundtree, Addison Clark Online, and as Polly said, I talked a little bit tonight about LinkedIn. So, show of hands, who is on LinkedIn? Who's proficient and a LinkedIn expert? All right. All right. So if I say anything wrong, shh.
You got it.
Catch me afterwards. Don't embarrass me. Kind of thing. But I think when we talk about social media platforms, there's so many platforms, but there are a couple that have really come to the forefront. And when you think about LinkedIn, it is the premier social media tool for businesses. And when we start this kind of conversation, I think it's really important for folks to understand, well, what is LinkedIn? Well, what better way to understand what something is than through the words of the organization itself? So if you go to LinkedIn, the site will tell you that it is a site designed to leverage your professional network to reconnect with past and present colleagues, find a job, source new hires, or meet new people and prospects. So there it is. That's what it does. I didn't even need 10 minutes.
Okay.
Thank you, Andrew.
Yeah, but how many times have you actually gone out and somebody said, well, what do you do? And you explain it to them and they're kind of scratching their head. Sometimes it's always better to hear a little bit about what something means from somebody who isn't doing it. So when you think about LinkedIn overall, what is all that as they describe it, right? Because I can tell you a whole bunch of people sat in a room for a long time to make that a really pithy statement. What does all that really mean? Well, so LinkedIn is a tool to really do a couple of different things. One is to source business prospects, get introductions, and in both of those cases, it's really about extending word of mouth leads. So whose business here really prospers from word of mouth leads? Yeah, that is the name of the game. And business to business, really being able to connect with people that you've been referred to or that know a little bit about you or have some level of trust with you before you ever start a conversation, really, really important. Well, but there's another side of LinkedIn as well, which is really on the ability to recruit talent and find a job. And that's where you hear the majority of the conversation around LinkedIn. But overall, really a combination of those two things really make it probably the most effective business-to-business social media tool that's out there today, if you use it appropriately. So let's talk about some statistics, because I think that really when you think about LinkedIn, you hear about Facebook, you hear about Twitter. LinkedIn's really trying to kind of move into that space of being a preeminent social media tool, but there's still a lot that's unknown. So we go through a couple of statistics that hopefully reinforces really how strong a platform LinkedIn is. If you look at LinkedIn, it's more than doubled in size, over 170 million members in the past year. I mean, that's an astounding number of people that have joined LinkedIn. 45% of the members are considered major decision makers. So, who really likes to be introduced to major decision makers for their organizations? I mean, really, when you think about a population of folks that are active and engaged in their businesses, this is it. If you look at Twitter and Facebook, that accounts for about 24 to 29%. Doesn't mean that these aren't great tools. It's just reaching, in a lot of cases, a different market and an opportunity to reach multiple folks with multiple messages. holds the record for the highest average household income, $109,000 on average per member. And this is an astounding group of folks in terms of reach to be able to get to folks, especially if you're in businesses where you're looking for these folks with sizable household incomes. And the biggest thing I think about LinkedIn, there's no distractions. At the end of the day, this is not about what people have got going on in their lives. These are really targeted professional profiles of people, and they're really focused on what they're doing in their business and professional life. And so overall, it's a great place when you think about business-to-business networking at really being able to get a true read of how folks are representing themselves from a business perspective. So at Alice O'Clock Online, I think what would be helpful when you think about LinkedIn, I would give a little example of kind of how we use LinkedIn in our organization, kind of a case study. One of the things that we figured out long ago when we really started to participate in LinkedIn, and both Jeff and I come from a corporate background. We were with Capital One for years and had LinkedIn profiles at Capital One. But what we really missed out on and really discovered when we started our business and really started focusing on activities in LinkedIn, it's a great place to build a brand, not only as individuals, but as organizations and companies as well. And so our first focus was really about bringing in the information and content both into our individual profiles and more specifically our company profile that really helped us brand our organization the way we wanted to be branded. So it wasn't just about putting information in about who we were or what work experience that we have, but there are a number of tools within LinkedIn that really help you bring in other information and do things that really get your name, your brand, the kind of conversation you want to have happen about you in the business community into your LinkedIn profile. And then once we got that together, it was really the next step of moving towards kind of building out our network. So, coming from a background, and LinkedIn is one of those things where every time you kind of change roles or your business evolves, who you're linked up with in LinkedIn and kind of who you're interacting with should also evolve, right? I've got a few high school friends or work colleagues from 20 years ago that I'm, still connected to in LinkedIn, but I'm constantly bringing in new folks that I meet in terms of an opportunity to build that network with folks and build the network with folks that we want to be interacting with day in and day out today. And then finally, once you get that network together and you get that brand together, then it's really about how do you focus those activities for us on business development. So a lot of the activities that we have, our brand on LinkedIn is really focused to really talking succinctly about what we do in the business-to-business space. What can we offer other businesses in terms of expertise in online marketing and that sort of thing, and then how do we extend that conversation out into business development, into the business development world. So a couple of tips, 5 to be exact, because everybody ought to have 5 tips, right? You ever seen a presentation with 4 tips? Just doesn't happen. It's either 3 or 5. So we've got 5 today. First and foremost, number 1 tip in LinkedIn: have a complete profile. There's a lot of opportunity to bring in a lot of information about yourself. Talk a little bit about what you do, what your work experience is, your educational experience, kind of all the things that really are a true makeup of who you are and what that brand that you want personally to be about. And secondly, after you've done that, and there's another component of that, if you can get linkedin.com/yourname, that's great because it makes it a whole lot easier for people to find you that way. If you're Andrew Roundtree, that's fairly easy. If you're Jeff Allen, he struggled a little bit more. I think it's because I'm better than he is, but he says he's got more comments. So, but after you've done that, really focus on building and updating your company profile. Again, an extension, an opportunity. If you do own your own business, or if you're part of a larger organization that you can control this, it's a great opportunity to extend that network, extend that brand, extend that story, and get a lot of personal benefit out of those connections from a company standpoint. And then third, it's all about connecting. And this is not the run out and just try to connect with everybody that you can on LinkedIn and get to that ever popular 500 plus. Anybody know about the 500 plus? So after you reach 500 connections on LinkedIn, it quits counting and just says 500 plus. It's not really about the true number of connections, but make sure you're connecting with the folks that you really want to have an interaction with that would be, really good to build your network around. And one way to do that is certainly as you're out networking face to face and doing kind of your normal business development activities. It's always a great opportunity to use LinkedIn as a follow-up. The other thing is there's a whole nother side of LinkedIn that we're not going to get into too much today. It's all around groups. And so you can go out as you're building your profile and connecting. You can really join different groups where there are discussions going on every day. And this is a great opportunity from a branding standpoint to participate in the organizations you want to participate in, and say all the things, in terms of conversations, to really paint yourself as an expert in the space, or really to connect with folks that potentially you wouldn't have had the opportunity to if it wasn't for these groups. And then finally, just participate. The more you're involved in it, the more you put into it, the more you'll get out of it. And as with all the social media tips as we talk about them today, LinkedIn's not a place to sell. So don't join those group discussions and say, hey, I have this product, please come buy it, because it's not going to work overall. So, am I close to time?
Well, just a minute over. So we will, by the way, we're going to save a few minutes at the end for questions and answers. So if you want to save things up until the end, we'll have plenty of time. Okay? All right, Scott.
Thank you guys for coming out. I'm Scott Dickens. My company is Rocket Pop Media. We do a number of things that I think a lot of our organizations do. Websites, social media, video production are the core three things that we do alongside with mobile apps, web apps, etc. And what we're going to talk about today, though, specifically is going to be YouTube and Facebook. And so moving into YouTube, I'm just going to give you a quick glance at the state of YouTube right now. 72 hours of video are uploaded every minute to YouTube. 4 billion hours worth of video are watched each month on YouTube. That number is skyrocketing every month. 500 years of YouTube video are watched every day on Facebook. Let that sink in. YouTube video watched on Facebook 500 years per day. Number 2 search engine in the world. That's important for a couple of reasons. Everyone knows the number 1 search engine in the world? Yeah. You know who owns YouTube? Google. So Google has the number 1 and number 2 search engine in the world. So I'll let you read between the lines whether you think running a few ad clicks dollars will help your YouTube campaign or not. Google would have you believe they probably wouldn't, but I don't necessarily concur. It's the 3rd most visited site after Google and Facebook. And if anyone followed the Red Bull Stratos event this week, I was watching with my son sitting in my lap on YouTube. I wasn't on YouTube, the event was. 8 million plus watched it live on Sunday afternoon when there was a lot of other stuff to be watching on television if everyone follows the NFL. So why use YouTube? There's a few key advantages with YouTube that you get there. It's low cost. I mean, it's free. Everyone can get a YouTube account. Uploading video is free. Storage of the video, free. Compression of the video, free. Marketing of the video, pretty much free. Longevity is great. It stays there forever unless you take it down or let your account be canceled. Video is 50 times more likely to be clicked than text. You put a blog post up that has a video embedded and 2 lines of text, or even 2 paragraphs of text. The text will not be read, the video will be clicked. Guaranteed 90% of the time. Even higher percent if you go into longer posts with a video. People will always like to have it told to them rather than them have to read it. Social sharing and viral nature. YouTube wants you to share the video. They give you the tools. They let you share it on Twitter, LinkedIn, on YouTube, on Facebook, everywhere you can share it, and they make it easy. They give you an embed code. It is as easy as pie to do. So there are a couple of key functions of YouTube that I like a lot. For training, it's especially great. This is a thing we did for the Marine Corps. And this is kind of a case study oriented thing. You're not going to hear a lot of it, and it's really not that important that you do. These guys were flying around the world doing this training where they go in and they show people how to use this 3-season sleeping system, a fancy sleeping bag and a tent. It's good for all environments, but they were spending hundreds of thousands of dollars flying these guys all over the world to do this same dog and pony show. So what they did was they started shipping the training kit to each location. This is on YouTube streaming in 1080p HD. It's on their hard drives. They can send it out on a USB stick. It's a lot cheaper than flying somebody around the world to do the training in person, one-on-one. So that's really all you need. Yeah, oh, that's true. The other thing that we do a lot of is company profiles. You go ahead and start playing that. This is one thing we did for Keep Virginia Beautiful. They had a compelling story. The organization's been around for 60 years this year, but they were dormant for about 20 years of that. Anybody remember the Crying Indian commercial? He rose into shore and there's trash everywhere. That was Keep America Beautiful. That's the last time Virginia had an active outreach for Keep Virginia Beautiful. So what we wanted to do is reintroduce the organization, make it seem vibrant and active and lively and today. Also give a nod to the history so that people understand the importance of the organization, but they could tell their brand story very quickly and concisely in a 3 to 5 minute video, as opposed to having you digest an entire website to know what they do. So I'll let you guys discover these a little bit on your own. Tips on do-it-yourself YouTube. Everyone wants to know, can you do this yourself? I own a video production agency, so I'm paid to tell you no. The reality is, with a well-lit room, that's true, nobody's paying me to do that. With a well-lit room and an okay camera and a few quick tips, you can make video look okay yourself. Well-lit room, well-lit, meaning put lamps on the desk, put a spotlight in the room, whatever it takes. Natural light is wonderful. If you've got a mic that you can put a mic on the person so it doesn't sound like they're talking from the other end of the hall, that's great. If you don't have a mic, position the camera relatively close and pan back out of it so that you've got them framed up nice, but the audio is still clean. And I think you'll get a pretty decent homemade elevator pitch, 30-second to a minute piece on your company with a little bit of work. That being said, the professional product is always going to look a little better. Rehearse, keep it brief. Rehearse meaning don't get there 5 minutes before this and go, okay, now how am I going to say this? Look at yourself in a mirror and do it till you're fluent with it. These guys are presentation people. They will probably concur that very quickly and easily. Keep it brief, meaning it's the same principle that if you go to a B&I meeting, you don't get 5 minutes to talk about yourself. You have 30 seconds, right? So elevator pitch online, very much the same thought process there. So I want to run ahead of schedule while I can. Facebook we may spend a few more minutes on. How many people here have a Facebook profile for personal use? You put pictures up there, pictures of the kids. How many of you same people do you have a business page? Okay, well, that's actually more than I thought, but you guys are kind of in touch, so it's good. 93% of adults in the U.S. are on Facebook. Let that sink in. 93%. 425 million are using Facebook on mobile platforms. Now that becomes even more important when you start comparing a small retail business where pricing, availability, and product information plays hand in hand with Facebook, because it is also very well known now that people are not only taking shopping sites into Crate and Barrel and these other organizations, and there's searches for where they can find it cheaper or more local or a local resource for it or whatever the case may be. They're doing it with their hands on the platform. They're posting on Facebook. Has anybody seen a better deal on this, trampoline than at Sam's Club? And they're getting responses while they're standing in Sam's Club because other people are on Facebook and hearing it. So more than 1 billion users worldwide. Billion. That's a crazy stat if you think about where they were just a few years ago. I will say the same thing that these guys said about LinkedIn, the same thing you guys are going to say about Pinterest and about all the other outreaches, Twitter, etc. The first inclination when people get a Facebook page is, woo, free marketing, free advertising, awesome, I don't have to buy anything else, I just peddle my goods on Facebook and build it and they will come. That's not the way it works. I think about Facebook very much as kind of a backyard party, a cookout at your house. You're going to be interacting with people that are your friends, your colleagues, maybe people you went to school with, there are people you associate with. If you go to a party in the backyard of somebody's house which is typically, people that you know on Facebook, they may come over to your house, same kind of organization structure. And somebody walks up to you and says, hey, thanks for inviting me over, the burgers are great. And you go, buy my widget. And then they come up to you a few minutes later and go, man, those margaritas, woo. And you go, buy my widget. Pretty soon they don't want to come to your cookout anymore. And it's the same thing on Facebook. If you're peddling constantly on Facebook, if you're doing nothing but marketing yourself, nobody wants to be sold all the time. People think about Facebook the same way people always felt about the water cooler, right? Water cooler conversation, word of mouth marketing. The water cooler today is Facebook. I see people in my office, we're in one big room, nobody's talking. There's 13 people in there. I see people posting on Facebook and other people across the room from them LOLing and commenting and passing it on and sharing it. Nobody said a word out loud. It's exactly like the water cooler used to be, but it's now all online. But with most things, people like hearing a story. They want to hear a compelling story that makes them want to hear more. They want to click more, they want to read more, they want to see more. If you say one thing around the water cooler and nobody says anything, your conversation just died. And it's kind of like that on Facebook. If you're just spouting quotes of the day, 1 out of 20 maybe is interesting if it's really good, but nobody wants to just get quotes of the day all day. Make it interesting, make it compelling, make it relevant to your industry and the people that are following you. Interact with fans. I mean, we used to say in the retail world, you'd end up with those days that are just rainy days and nobody walks into the door and there's nobody that you can interact with and small business people love to talk their business. Well, now there's Facebook. If you've got a slow day in your retail business and you can spend some time on LinkedIn, you can spend some time on Facebook, some time on Twitter, maybe post a couple of pictures of great products to your Pinterest wall, you're going to be doing yourself a big favor because you're building the cultural outreach and the voice of your organization without a customer directly in front of you, which is the goal, right? Comment, share, be active. So not just on your personal profile, on your business page too. But don't ignore one for the other or mix them up. That was both right. So getting started on Facebook, you've got to participate. All you guys that have a Facebook profile, you didn't know what to do on Facebook until you got a Facebook profile. I'll say the same thing these guys did, and I'll reiterate it a different way. You may feel like you need to be on 3 places or 4 places or 5 networks on social media. Don't try to do it all at once. If you're just kind of getting your feet wet, pick 1, pick 2. Whether it's Twitter and Facebook or LinkedIn and Twitter, just pick 1 or 2 and do it until you feel like you've got a handle on it and what's going on with that outreach. Then adapt that to the other ones. I will probably go against some people in this room and I will say don't post the same thing to multiple networks. I don't want to follow somebody on Twitter, follow their page on Facebook, and follow them on LinkedIn and get 3 posts about the same exact thing and the exact same wording at the exact same time. Make it interesting. I mean, if I see people doing that, I typically go, well, I'm only going to follow them on one. I'll pick one and just jettison them on the other 2. I mean, who wants to hear 3 things about the same thing? So, consistency. Social media, you can't post once or 3 times or 5 times in a day and then go dark for a month. That would be like having a news station and only putting out a news update every 6 weeks. I mean, it's just not relevant anymore. I will always preach that you should spend about 20% of your time, maybe 25% of your time talking about yourself. Either an opportunity with your organization, what you do, somebody you support. The other parts of the time, I say, make yourself relevant to your clientele. The people that are following you, what are they interested in? If you have a retail business in Carytown, chances are the people that are following you are interested in small business. They're interested in things shot by a local. They're interested in the chamber. They might be interested in the folk festival. So I think a fine update, if you've got a retail business in Carytown, is, hey, who's going to the folk festival today? Who was your favorite act? I think that's a great update. Never try to sell yourself down people's throat with every post. So I spend about maybe 20% of our time, 25% of our time talking about specific things, maybe an offer, a sales offer, a feedback thing, something to do with our organization. And the rest of the time, it's partners, people we like, people we want to help generate content around as well. Engage others, be fun, be lighthearted. Don't feel like you got to drive a business-specific message all the time. Again, LinkedIn is very different than Facebook. You can be a little personal on Facebook. The people that are following you also want to know your culture and your climate and your tone. So I think it's perfectly okay to be a little personal on Facebook without being, never religion, politics, what are those? And it may not be the place for everybody, that's true. And I think you said that very well. If your market is 65 to 75-year-old individuals, even though it is the fastest growing segment on Facebook, fastest growing segment right now, that's it. It may not be the place to be. So advertising on Facebook, I just want to touch on. How many people that have pages here have done any ads on Facebook? Very few, okay. So it is not for everybody, but I will tell you that if you have a localized outreach, if you are trying to drive a specific market or a geographic area or an age segmentation within a geographic area, Facebook allows an awful lot. Because what do you tell Facebook when you get a profile? Everything, right? Yeah, everything. Where you went to school, probably what your political affiliation is, what church you go to, what movies you like, what music you listen to. You tell them everything. So who better to target your advertising than Facebook? And who doesn't know more than that is Google. So between the two, I think you're okay. More impressions than Google right now on Facebook. That just started actually this month. Start with a conversation strategy. And by that I mean, I don't think an ad strategy written for generating number of visits to a retail business necessarily works in a sidebar ad on Facebook. Because people want to feel like it's still part of the conversation. The things that generate traffic there are things that ask questions, or things that ask ask a question that you can't answer without clicking that link and finding out more. Outbound links outside of Facebook can be tracked with Google Analytics. You can still see where people are going, where they're coming. Facebook has its own analytics system. If you stay within Facebook and you link to Facebook pages, that's a whole strategy question there. Do you want them to go to your Facebook page, or do you want them to go to your website? Well, if you're selling things on your website, you probably want them to go to the site, right? So you need to think about that before you start this. And I will correlate exactly what they've said. When you start with social media, start with a strategy. Being on Facebook is not a marketing strategy. I will build it, they will come. That doesn't necessarily work. 69% of people that advertise on social networks rate Facebook excellent or good for their ad strategy. I think that's a pretty good rating for somebody that's pretty recently at it. Paid ads and stories also go a long way. People love to see things show up in the feed. Now with everyone, I'll say one last thing, with everyone concentrating on the timeline, because things have transitioned from an experiential or to an experiential timeline-oriented experience versus the static page that you used to be able to get and drive people to. They're really going after more of the Twitter instant engagement, find yourself in the feed. Those things get clicked 60% more often than something found on your page. And by that I mean, if you can drive your content into people's feeds and it shows up on other people's feeds in their stream of consciousness, somebody shares it, somebody likes it, all those things puts the content higher in the feed and it puts it into the news feed as opposed to on just a page. You want to be in that news feed because that's where people are living now on Facebook. I know this is a very cursory, at a glance look at this stuff. My Twitter handle is Rocket Pop Scott. You can find Rocket Pop Media on Facebook. You can find us. I've got cards. I'll be here for a little while. Please hit me with questions if you have those. Scott at Rocket Pop Media is my email.
Well, and we're going to have questions in
And I'll
just
have
a
plenty of
minute.
cards. Yep.
You
This is you.
did fabulous. Thank
Got
you for
anything
staying on.
thrown?
No, you were great.
He's got another minute and 90 seconds.
That's 2 minutes.
Question?
About nose 2 minutes and 30 seconds.
Okay, so Twitter, and we're not in the social media world as a more of a provider or instructor. We're really users. So we're gonna tell you our Twitter story right now. Well, basically our social media story.
Yeah, as we mentioned earlier, we got told that we needed to be on Twitter. In fact, we needed to be in social media. And we tend to be fairly compliant clients, so we went and did what we were told. We got a Twitter account. Holly is our community manager, and she was busy doing stuff.
Right. Well, first we went on LinkedIn and we did the 500 plus, because we were told you have to have at least 500 people connections, so we went and got it. And then we did the Facebook thing, and we went on that and got our Facebook pages and filled out all our profile. We did everything we were supposed to do. And we got a Twitter account.
We got a Twitter account, and Polly was told that she was supposed to post multiple times a day.
Yes, 3 to 5.
And that she should post mostly things that were personal or interesting, things about our walks we take in the morning, and then maybe at the end of the day you could post something about business.
Right. And so I was doing that very religiously, every single day posting my stuff. And then in late March of this year, 3 very compelling things happened on the same day. The first one was that I just suddenly said, who the heck am I tweeting to? I have less than 200 people following me. The chance that they're on their Twitter feed right now looking at something I posted about the deer we saw on our walk this morning, it's just ridiculous.
And even if they saw it, it was completely unclear that they cared.
Right. So that was not good. And then the second thing that happened was we got our Google Analytics. And we found out that week we had less than 50 unique visitors to our website. And we want people to come to our website.
And I am a quantitative guy. So I like this equation. Nothing plus nothing plus nothing equals nothing.
Right. So then we, of course, had one other compelling thing happen on the same day, which is I did, while I was on there posting about the deer we saw on our walk that morning, spot an interesting article. And this article was entitled, How I Got to 250,000 Followers on Twitter. And I went, okay, I'll bite.
I'm sitting there at the desk, and my wife, out of the blue, says, okay, I'll bite. Polly, what are you talking about?
Right. Well, actually, what they described was a process of how to get Twitter followers. Now, this is something that, and we're going to we're going to caveat all over the place with this, but this was basically the process, which is you figure out who in your area of expertise, somebody who is a rock star in your industry, what are the magazines your clients read, all of those kinds of folks, the bloggers, who are the top for us, who are the top small business bloggers. You can just Google that, and they will give you a list.
And you'll find it's a character named Duct Tape Marketing.
Yes, you will find it's Duct Tape Marketing. But anyway, so you find these folks, and you say, oh, wouldn't it be lovely if the people who follow Duct Tape Marketing also followed me? Okay, that's a kind of an interesting question.
Because we want to make it clear. Getting followers in and of itself will not do you a nickel's worth of good. You have to have the right followers.
Right.
You can go out on Twitter and you will find people who will sell you $3,000, like 3,000 followers like that. Do not do it.
Right.
It's not going to help you.
No.
It may increase the number of followers. It's not going to increase your sales, because at the end of the day, you got to convert followers to customers, and the only followers you're going to convert to customers are people who care about what you're offering.
Now, there are tools out there that will help you to know who the followers are of, say, Duct Tape Marketing. And so you go copy followers, and it shows you a list of John's, that's his name, followers, and you go follow, 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 and some of those people will follow you back.
Great! That's what you want. You got somebody who's interested in small business, and small business is your area, and now they're following you.
Yep.
That was the objective, to get people to follow you who are interested in what you have to offer.
By the way, we do have a whole procedure for this, so don't get too crazy if you're not getting all of this. After a time, those people who don't follow you back need to be unfollowed, because Twitter has rules about how many people who, the level of followers to those you are following. There's rules about that. So you have to go out and unfollow them. But there are tools that are out there that will help you to know who hasn't followed me back. And then you can unfollow them. And then you repeat. But this gets you a big following, but now what? So the next thing is you want people to come to your website. That's what we want. We want people to find us.
Because we found out the same thing that other folks have said, which is going out on Twitter and saying, we've got a great book called Let Go to Grow, buy it, does not work.
No, of course not.
That's not interesting. What we want to do, what we've learned is what you can use Twitter for is to drive people to your website. And in fact, we get people to go to the website by offering them free content.
Right, so we want them to hire us as consultants and buy our products and help us as speakers and so on. And as Doug said, we have content. In fact, we have tons of content because of all the articles that we write, you know, the weekly column and so on. So for us, Twitter was a great vehicle because we can tweet and put a link in that tweet to an article that might be of interest to small business people, and they click on the link, and where do they end up? On our website, in our blog. This is all making connections, right? Because we want to drive them to our website. Okay, so now here's one big thing that we learned though, which is don't be like a dog chasing a car. You know this old analogy, right?
Because the problem that dogs have when they catch the car is they do not know what to do with it.
Right.
So now you've got somebody to your website, what are you going to do with it?
Right. So you have to have something for them to do. So we've learned that we have to have more articles, we have to have products, we have and so on and so on and so on for them on our website. Now I can tell you the results. Now remember I said I had this revelation in late March. I started doing this process on April the 1st. I now have more than 22,000 followers on Twitter.
And this is after she has gotten rid of all the Russian women that want to be my wife.
Yes. We are getting now more than 600 unique visitors weekly to our website. That's a great improvement for us.
And that's up from, you know, single digit visits at one point.
Yes, and it has also resulted in increased sales of books and products and increased opportunities to speak and consult, which is what the whole deal is about, right? Because it's more than friends and followers. Having followers is nice. Having the right followers and getting them to come to your website is even better. Okay, now, there are a lot of rules about Twitter. So I am caveating here, you know, you don't want to get shut down as a spammer and other things. There are rules. I'd be happy to talk to you afterwards about some of the rules and make sure you know what those are. We have one more thing, which is Pinterest.
It's a chick thing.
So Pinterest is a chick thing. How many people here are on Pinterest? Yay!
I'm
Good for
interested
you.
in Pinterest.
Okay. Pinterest is growing, let me tell you. But this is a medium where you pin pictures or links of items onto boards. Think of it as a big cork board. And you're going to pin the best looking pictures and things that are about you. Again, remember, it's social media, like Scott said. And if your content is visual or could be made to be visual, then I would say check out this platform because it is growing huge. In fact, it's the fastest growing platform right now. It accounts for tons of referrals, direct referrals, and it's growing. So if you have a product that you want, especially one that might appeal to women, because Pinterest is largely women.
Like I said, it's a chick thing.
It is a chick thing. It's more than 80% female right now, but that demographic is changing too. Because I see more and more small business folks that follow us on Twitter, they're coming onto Pinterest. I'm seeing them every day more and more. But if you have pocketbooks or shoes or something like that that you can sell, yay. But it doesn't have to just be that. You know, power tools might not be great right now, but probably growing. But the thing is that women are spending, on average, about an hour on the site. Do you realize how long that is? That's a huge amount of time. Okay, so here is our Pinterest page, because we don't have a product except for us, but we have a Pinterest page. Now, what would somebody who sells services, not a physical product, put on their Pinterest page? Well, you know, a little bit about who we are, but we, and our appearances in our book and our small business videos, but we also put our articles on here. Every article on our blog has a little picture that is about that article. I can pin my articles onto Pinterest using those pictures. And when somebody clicks on something, they go right back to our website again, onto our blog. So even if you have services, if you can find a way to make them visual, you can use Pinterest. This is growing. I'm learning about Pinterest. Are your customers using Pinterest?
Some a lot more than others, but absolutely.
Yeah, are you seeing it more and more? Seeing it more and more? To me, it is a fascinating medium, and I get sucked into the Twitter or to the Pinterest vortex when I go on.
She's telling the truth.
I know. Okay, so tips for this one: make sure your business is a match to the platform for Pinterest. Build your following by following and repinning the people who are movers and shakers in your industry. Figure out who they are, go follow their boards, and repin their stuff, and they'll probably follow you back, and then you gain credibility out there. Pin useful content, not just recipes and so on, although those are good. And use the pins to direct people back to your website. Just in the last week, I've split my 2 Pinterest accounts. I had one Pinterest account. It was the business account, and I found I was putting sparkly things and recipes on it. And so after a while, I decided, I think I need my own Polly White Pinterest account. And so I took my boards down that were sparkly things and recipes and alcoholic drink recipes and put them over onto my own site. But
Of course, the net of that is she spends even more time on it.
it's a really fun place to be, and I think that's going to suck people in more than anything. If you haven't checked out Pinterest, go out there and check it out. It's really cool. The thing really to remember about social media, and everybody has said it, is you've got to be able to answer the first 2 questions. And then use the media, if it's appropriate for your business, to get people your message. But figure out, is this the right thing for me? And then figure out.
Well, as Scott said, which platform is right for you? Not every platform is right for every business. And you should probably focus on 1 or 2, because I will tell you this, social media is unequivocally a black hole into which you can pour every waking minute.
Yes.
There's no question, and that's not going to be a good use of your time. So figure out a plan that you're going to use, limit the amount of time you spend. You can choose an hour a day or half an hour a day, but decide what's right for you.
Right.
And then make sure that what you're doing is not just getting friends and followers and tweeting about the deer that you saw this morning on your wall, but that you're getting the right friends and followers that are going to be interested in your products and services, that you're finding a way to drive them to your website. And once you get them to your website, you've got something to do with them. Now, maybe the thing that you're going to do is get them interested in coming to your restaurant. You're going to have your menu and beautiful pictures of food. Maybe it's to get them to come to your retail store, pick up the phone and give you a call. Maybe it's to actually buy something because you've got e-commerce on your website and you're trying to sell. But we found it's incredibly useful. We found it doesn't work well to go out on social media and say, I've got this thing, buy it from me. Give away something that's free and valuable to get them to your website. There you have the opportunity to present them with other options. If they like the article they read, they might be willing to buy your book.